Does anybody here have an inefficient recruitment process? You're okay then. Yeah, there's a whole audience for you. Why don't we start out if you guys would just introduce yourselves. We'll start here with John.
Yeah, hi, John Stannis, Head of Global Employer Brand and Talent Engagement at Alpha.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, more. We want more.
I'm Vicky Burnage and I'm Head of Product at read.co.uk.
Hi, Gordon Smith, Country Manager for Hired in the UK.
And Katrina Collier, I'm a social recruiting trainer at my own company, The Searchologist.
The Searchologist, there we go. Okay, so an esteemed panel, I'm going to kick you off with one of those just because virtual reality, bots, all this lovely new techie stuff. Really? Katrina?
I mean, it's definitely there, so I'm going to do.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
But I saw it in terms of like a headline question. It's definitely there. I don't think there's any point in trying to pretend that like virtual reality and artificial intelligence, however you might differentiate those two, is going to play a part just like it does in every other aspect of our lives. Whether it's from ordering a taxi to getting a Thai meal delivered to your front door, it's there. So it's definitely there. And I look at platforms like us that are using a combination of artificial intelligence and humans just to make the process more efficient for both candidates who are looking for a job. It's a stressful experience to try and make their life easier. And for a lot of recruiters, and I was a recruiter for 10 years, you spend a lot of time, going down kind of dead-end alleyways and going after things that aren't going to convert and trying to make the process more efficient for recruiters so that they're spending more time on doing valuable stuff rather than wasting time.
I think just to add to that, the important point was the word humans there. So I actually see this as a really big opportunity, and I don't think that it's a war that humans will win, and I don't think it's a war that machines will win. It's both working together to understand the limitations of that, to enable human enhancement for us to solve the problems that are existing in recruitment.
Okay.
Because what the robots can't do is creativity and empathy. So those who were just in my session, I can see a few victims. I got you to get up and greet each other like you hadn't seen each other in 5 years, and you all hugged and the noise level went up and there was a warmth. You're not going to get that. They're not going to take our jobs in that respect. So I don't ever see it taking over sourcing, for example. It might help you identify more people, but the initial contact and all of that, I don't feel it's going to go. But to use it, once you've got people onto your website, for example, with chatbots so that they can find information more easily, that's at a side complementing, like you're both saying yes. And no, I hope when you say yeah, I don't know, I disagree. I'm not sure they'll ever really understand. We're all so quirky.
I think, sorry, go on.
I mean, if we're really honest, we live in an augmented world already. We walk around holding our phones, we click through in lots of data, we have artificial intelligence in it already. Just putting a headset on isn't going to make much difference, right, in terms of our behaviour. So it's already here. We have artificial intelligence in many things. Now, are they going to take over the world? I mean, we're probably closer to a frickin' washing machine than we are a robot taking over our world. But it's important that we leverage these exponential technologies to enhance our process. It's already here. I don't actually think that's the future. It is here. I mean, if you look at Jaguar, they've just launched their application, which is an augmented application to attract e-engineers for their electronic car. They've partnered with Gorillaz, the band, because that's Jaguar's brand ambassador. It's already here. Yeah.
But we've even had with the UK military for years now, the Army has had great campaigns where they've integrated between the TV advert, print adverts, come online and answer the questions. But with all of that, do they actually need a recruiter then?
Nope.
But I think the adoption of it is very dependent on different industries. And so actually within the world of recruitment, it hasn't been adopted to the full potential of where it could get to. And so you'll have big players, big platforms, like Facebook and Google, who will drive the AI at the middle of their strategy and driving that forward. And that will then create a level field that everyone else is going to need to join.
And is this going to carry over to all levels? So I talked earlier with some people who've just started an apprenticeship program. They're still advertising locally in the press because those sorts of levels of jobs or types of jobs may not actually be involved in AI. And maybe they're the one of the 2 or 3 people in the whole country that don't have a phone. Is this technology relevant for all levels?
Yes and no, I would say. So if you are if you're trying to recruit somebody in the technical market, and we see that now, they're usually quite good at adopting technology, as one would expect. If you're looking for somebody who is perhaps working in a kitchen or what have you, it's less likely that they are going to adopt technology. So if you're using technology, AI or whatever within your recruitment process, they might not adopt, for example, if you were doing video interviews or whatever, because they might not have the equipment to do that.
But that's simply not, sorry to interrupt, that's simply not true, because 83% of the content that's engaged with online is video.
Right.
So they're already doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that doesn't. What I'm saying is that within industries there will be nuances, and there will be different amounts of take up from different people.
Oh, take-up's different.
Yeah.
I think that's a different
But
point.
you can't
But
say that
video is an asset that everybody's consuming.
you can't
80% of the
say
market.
that people in a kitchen aren't using technology already, because they will all have the latest phone and they will have access to Facebook. It's just the recruiters are still all sitting over on LinkedIn, for example. So you can already go there and you can use pay-per-click marketing to get in front of those people if you want to do it passively. But then there's also, when you talk to like local reach, I would always talk about Doris, who lives in my street. She's a science teacher. If I know you and I trust you because you show me that you're professional and you've interacted with me as a lovely human being, and you say I need a science teacher, I'll go, here's Doris, here's a phone number. She's not on social media anyway, anywhere, by choice. But that doesn't mean you don't have access. So I kind of beg to differ. I do think people have that on their phone and they are using it. They're just not necessarily using it where recruiters are using it.
Right. So let's ask in the audience, anybody here in that sort of catering industry or manufacturing industry where you might, or services industries where we think maybe you're not engaging as well with your potential candidates? Okay, so why not? So I said I was going to do some running.
Reverse question. Sticks his hand up and
So
then gets a question.
there you go.
Not a question, but it's much more along the lines of I do think that you brought up kitchen roles, and it is one of those things that they're only looking in certain places. As you said, they're not on LinkedIn, so if I waste my time on LinkedIn, I'm not going to find these people. Same thing if I'm looking for brewers in my company, again, they won't be on LinkedIn, so there's always going to be this certain amount of technology where they will be using, but it's not going to be all the technology for all the people. You're going to have to, find your own position in the world and finding your people using technology that can be relevant to both you and them.
And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that different demographics will adopt things differently, and it is for us to be able to reach out using different technology and understand what works and doesn't work to reach them.
Okay.
Just a question for him. Where are they then? Are they on YouTube?
No.
So they don't consume any content on YouTube? That's a very different question though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They will be on Facebook. They'll potentially be on Instagram.
Yeah, but that is
social network-wise.
Places they're going to be looking for to get jobs, possibly. I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes. But then it's, are they going to Facebook to then go, I'm looking for a brewing job.
Yeah.
Am I going to go onto Facebook for it, or am I going to go to a job platform? That's the thing.
But your opportunity is to present that job to them.
Yes.
So shortage of chefs, I imagine there's a shortage of brewers as well. You can get in front of them. Facebook has been gathering a lot of information about us over the years.
Yeah.
It's scary how,
I mean,
the second I changed my marital status to separated, I got dating in your 40s, would I like a faithful husband? Thanks for that. And it's like, boom, it was there in a second. So again, and that was 6 years ago. So it's like you could get some really interesting people that way.
I never got that alert, by the way.
Dating in your 40s. Would I like a faithful husband?
And we should point out, Brewdog, you're a boutique brewer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're trying to find a local, smaller business, not a big multinational with lots of budget.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Katrina would love to talk to you afterwards to talk about how she can make Facebook work for you.
Facebook stalking.
Right. Who else? So we're thinking this technology is always going to do something, but is it really going to ever replace us? Now, I ran Resumex 20 years ago. I could have done the whole recruiting process with our AI engine and picked out the same people the recruiter did. In fact, I ran a profile for a TV program doing exactly that. So technically, our technology is good enough to make the same selection as our less trained hiring managers might do. So why wouldn't we just keep doing that?
I think it will replace us in some elements of the process. So as an example, onboarding is supply chain, right? So how does Amazon navigate Christmas? It uses AI. You know, our onboarding process is supply chain. So it's inevitable it's going to replace us through that, right? Recruiting is a labor-intensive game at the moment. It doesn't need to be.
I think for permanent roles, though, if you just took a moment, which I don't think we do as recruiters, to remember what it would take to change jobs. Like if you've been in your job for 2 or 3 years, you're kind of settled in. Am I going to go out of the frying pan into the fire in my next role? Is it going to be everything it cracked up to be? Everything that I saw on the internet? Is it going to be all of that stuff? Am I going to end up out of a job in 3 months' time, unable to pay my mortgage or the rent? What's going to happen? Like, it's a big deal. So yes, maybe in the interim, the freelance, that where it's not so.
No. Still, onboarding is supply chain.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I think will it replace recruiters? I don't.
No. I said it will
I think
replace
onboarding's
elements
HR.
of our process. Won't it?
Okay. Yeah.
Which is right.
Yeah.
So, but when you talk about it's a big deal moving jobs, we are consuming jobs right now. Right? We've got lower tenures in gigs. Right. We've got the gig economy. So people are consuming work. Right. There's work to be done everywhere. People are consuming it, and technology enables them to do that, right? We've mentioned Uber. Uber is a perfect example. Forget all the employer brand shit that they've had over the last few weeks, a few months, right? That's terrible. But from
the drivers love it though.
Yeah, because it's on their terms, they're flexible, and it's technology that's enabling them to do that. I mean, blockchain's coming, and it's already here in many respects. That will transact any SOW, any employment contract. It will also pay you. So in your own money, real time on the work that you've done. So technology will absolutely impact our world very, very heavily. It's a given.
I think the ultimate gain of what a company wants to achieve, which is to get an absolutely fantastic candidate for the job that they are looking for, won't change. I think the way in which we do it, the tools, the processes, will definitely change. And that will enable our human capital to be able to focus on adding value. We undertook a survey probably 6 months ago, and that looked at asking job seekers what they found or what they felt about the whole process of recruitment. And it was quite damning in the negative experience that that they had, and like 91% of them expected companies to get back to them, and only 14% of them actually did have companies coming back to them. So there's huge discrepancies between what candidates want and what recruiters are able to give. The new technology, AI, machine learning, whatever you want to name it, will enable us to bridge that gap, to understand how we can give our human capital, train them with better skills and experience to provide the ability to add value, to personalization, to enhance that whole experience.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that, as well as from a candidate experience, there's recruiters, I'm sure a lot of people in this room, who are under huge pressure from their bosses and people more senior within the business to hire good quality candidates in really tight time frames with certain budgets and constraints and the stuff that we're all used to, and that is becoming harder and harder and harder using traditional methods. And I think educating upwards within organizations about this is what's going on in the recruitment landscape, and this is how, as a CEO or COO, you hire the next generation of your workforce that's going to take your company forward, is really important. And I think this is probably like a subject for a different debate, but the fact that I really passionately believe that recruitment is an industry that I've worked in for 15 years is hugely undervalued by most corporations, big and small. They just don't recognize the impact and the influence that it can have. And therefore, when we're talking about things like AI and technology, you see money plowing into it in every other part of the business. Oh, try this tool, it's fine. But does it go to recruitment? Probably not. And to fight for those budgets, it's really, really challenging.
So how many of you here have enough budget? Okay,
Hi,
one.
do you need some change?
Super. The rest of you are confident you don't have enough budget, so I think you're pretty
It is
spot on
crazy,
there.
right?
Yeah.
What runs the company? People. And where do we put the least investment?
Yeah, it's-
The people that bring in the people. It's bloody mad.
I know. So we're preaching to the converted choir
You
on
should be
this
the
one.
panel. You
Yeah.
should so be on the panel.
So a lot of what we're talking about now feels to me a bit about is the attraction piece. You know, attraction is changing. Now, of course, every year somebody says job boards are dead. This is going to replace a job board, and every year the job board industry gets stronger and stronger. The agency industry gets stronger and stronger, even though something's going to kill it. So we're probably not going to lose job boards. We're probably not going to lose ATSs, right? ATSs are not going to disappear. Social media is not going to disappear. What is going to disappear? Anything?
A lot of those aforementioned ATSs, multi-posters, some job sites already use AI and machine learning. So I don't necessarily think that it's going to disrupt the marketplace that much. What I do think will disrupt the marketplace is the problems that are needed to be solved for the end user.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the technology. It might make some of the roles that I see people look at it as through two lenses. One is the more gloomy lens of it's going to massively impact the number of jobs that people can do. We're quite in the luxury within our economy that we can upskill people, we can educate them. In other economies, say for example, I don't know, India, where there's a lot of repetitive task, manual work that goes on there. They don't have that infrastructure and framework to upskill that human capital. So we're in a much better advantage in the UK. And to me, it's about making sure that we understand the limitations of this technology as well. So a lot of the technology itself will look at past historical data, which is great. But how many people in this company within, say, for example, technical roles have women? So learning from the past doesn't necessarily mean that the future is going to be predicted correctly. So if, for example, we say we want to be able to take our HR CRM system and we want to be able to predict that over time, based on that, we understand what makes a good candidate, and we're going to use that to predict the future. The majority of it will come out, well, it's you need to hire a male, you know, they need to live here, they need to be this age group, and that's not correct. So the bias that we need to be aware of is very much there, and that's what we need to make sure we remove.
So John, you talked earlier today about this persona interview then and trying to understand, excuse me, that it's not just what we had before. You're building something new, which gives you a bit of leeway. But how do you go into your business and say to people, okay, let's figure out what it is we really need to go to the next level as a business and then go find that?
How? Well, the first thing is recruitment is freaking hard. It's a real problem to solve. So you have to, once you recognise that, then you can start having some rational conversations around what are the problems we're trying to solve. One of those is attraction. One of the things we've been exploring is persona sessions, so understanding the talent better, understanding who they are and how they behave, and then reverse engineering those things to deliver, you know, to produce what they want. Now you can't fudge it; it's got to be authentic, it's got to be real, which is the crucial element. But what you can get to the point is, which we see this in consumer world, where machine learning is able to do the matchmaking much better than us humans can, and that's happening already. What we don't do in the recruiting world is we don't embrace the technology that really can help, and we push back at it. It's really hard to do what we do manually, really, really, really hard. And I'll take anything that provides 2x, 3x of improvement, or speed, or automation, or that provides a better experience for the candidate. I'll take it. I just don't know whether we're adopting it in the right way.
So Katrina, you're talking a similar approach, but with social media, for example. A lot of that is candidate focused, evaluating what candidates are out there, looking at that information. Are you able to turn that same approach back in on the client first before they go out?
Sorry, say that again.
So you're looking at the data that might be available on Facebook, for example, and profiling types of people, types of skills, types of interests. Can you turn that around back using the same approach on the client before you help them build a campaign?
Because I'm not a marketer, so I teach sourcing. So I teach how to hunt in and find people, so I sort of expect that bit to be done. If that makes sense? So I only mention the marketing because it happened to be more high volume. What I teach is the dig in and find people. What was coming up while these guys were talking was I was thinking, we're forgetting, we're doing a lot where, we're going to know who we're looking for better and all that kind of stuff, but we're forgetting that initial catch. And I think that's where technology has changed us so much, that our attention spans are so short. Like, are you guys struggling not to look at your phone? I mean, mine's right there and I want to look at it. Really? Like, I want to know if I've been messaged, what I'm missing. It's like constant. And I think we're forgetting that element as well, that we have this once chance to hook somebody on and get them interested and into our processes, whatever they might be. So I didn't answer your question, but I just think that's the other thing that's really, it's going to become even more this constant noise. And I wonder if people will just push back and eventually just go, enough.
Yeah, so, yes, I'll give you a microphone here, yeah.
I've got a question that's related to this. So more than 70% of the jobs that were advertised by the FTSE 100 companies last year were for the same 21 roles, okay? Now these guys are not niche, right? They're in the mainstream, they're in demand, and they're being pestered, okay? And they're actively taking steps to reduce their online profile. So how does the panel think that we should react to that?
So
or adapt to that?
I assume you're talking about, say, developers? They absolutely are.
Or sales guys.
Or sales guys, yeah, as well. And also sales guys are on rolling commissions, so they don't want to move either. Yeah, I mean, developers are most definitely stripping back their profiles. You've probably seen the memes of, that somebody changes their LinkedIn profile and the recruiter's running behind the developer. So they are, and I think it's a case of recruiters upskilling themselves to go and find out where they are, and then using a tool like Candidate ID to keep them in the pipeline, isn't it? So once you've hooked them, that they'll stay and you can just keep feeding them information so eventually that they'll convert. So it's a change in mentality. But you've got to go fishing where they are. The Facebook for your brewers, for example, your developers are over on other sites and they're hanging out and they're there, they're talking. It's just we're all approaching in the wrong place and in the wrong way. We're not being human. So.
No, I think that's what you might see is more niche platforms coming up. So we focus on technology, and we did a survey just last month, and obviously we just focused on developers, and it was almost 50% of the candidates that we asked who'd been on the platform hadn't used LinkedIn as part of their job search. Now, I worked for LinkedIn for 3 years prior to working for Hired. It's great in so many ways, but tech specifically is such a niche industry that we're talking to candidates that we're speaking to, and they're getting 20, 30 in-mails a week from both agency and in-house recruiters. There's no value in that. If I'm a developer who cares about learning new things and finding out what's going on in my industry, and all I get is just bang, 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 message after message, there's no value from there. And we're seeing that kind of trend of people just dropping off the generic platforms like that, because they're so in demand.
They don't care if it's an urgent PHP requirement, if that's your subject title, they don't care, right? And 70% of development teams in the UK are foreign, and we've gone and done Brexit to ourselves. And I say that because I am British, I've lived here long enough to be British. So they are leaving already. So if you are not going above and beyond, please, you need to. Use the technology to find out conversation starters about people and treat them differently to how everybody else might be doing it. That really personalised approach. Find out something about Scott that you can't, no one else is doing, and use it in conversation. If you're in my last session, of course you know now. How to do that.
I was just interested from what the panel thoughts are really in terms of overall automation in terms of the process, because as you said, there's tools now for managing your onboarding process, for talent pipelining throughout the whole process, but then having been to your last session, Katrina, it's about being human as well. Yeah. So how do we as recruiters sort of balance, and I guess one of our challenges is choosing what we automate and how hands-on we stay with candidates, because as there's been a lot of research, candidates tend to engage with an individual rather than a company. So, you know, when you've got your own Twitter profile with your name, they'll engage with that more than the company name at whatever the company is.
They do, and that's your job, isn't it, to bring them in, and they engage with you. So, you know, I mean, I'm sure we'll all have a different answer, but, you know, mine would be automate that call scheduling, automate the pipeline, keeping it active and going, you know, set up the reminders to follow up. That to me is the bit you automate, not the actual conversation piece.
I think you, sorry.
There you go.
I think you need to understand what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
In different demographics, you're going to have variances. We saw, and actually this quite surprised me, but there could be an underlying reason why. Within the research, we saw that we asked candidates or people that work, if you were to go into a supermarket and there was a automated paying bit, or there was somebody who was actually manning it, which would you prefer? And I actually thought that you'll get the younger people would prefer to go through the automated bit, and the older generation, I include myself in that, going through the manned bit. But it wasn't, it was completely the other way around. Now that could be because, as many people have said, millennials want a lot of things done for them, and that could be part of it. And it could be us getting older, we're, you know, fed up with speaking to people. But I think different demographics will want different things, and so you can't say this way of automating everything is the right way. And so you need to understand what works and what doesn't work. You need to understand where the complex human decisions need to be made in order for you to process, like automate processes around that, but leave those valuable decision points up to humans so that you can enhance the whole process.
It's about giving people choice. It's not about like ramming it down one demographic, you know, throat and saying, you're this, therefore you should get this service. It's about, you know, leaving it open and saying, you know, if you'd like to do this entire thing through an automated machine learning process where you don't have to talk to a human being because that's your thing, and you're not an extrovert, you don't really want to talk to people, you just want to do it all online, you should be able to have that. I believe in today's age, you should have that opportunity. But likewise, if you want a bit more conversation, if you want to be able to have human interaction along the route, if you get some advice, what's going to happen in my interview, who are the people that I'm meeting, what's it going to be like, you want that human interaction, you should have the choice.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I don't think you can kind of start putting it into funnels. You need to give people the options.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's do your research. I mean, we've seen how well they're focusing on the millennials has done. You've got a whole generation called Gen X who are pissed off, who are the managers of the millennials, who are your future leaders as the boomers retire, because of their age, nothing to do with what their personality is like. Because everyone read the expertise that was out there and believed it. But if they'd done their research, I'm an old Gen X who loves the auto checkout and an extrovert and still love it. So you don't know unless you ask your people.
And so to answer your question originally, when we started ATSs back in the dark ages, it was primarily to get rid of what I call as the term administrivia. Automate the stuff that we all love to do, you know, reading CVs and putting them in the piles and, you know, setting up interviews and putting them in the diary, all that fun stuff. Automate the heck out of that stuff, because that's not value add.
And I'd also flip it around to say that you have to do it for the candidate side as well.
Yeah.
Because it's all really good and well doing it. It's hugely valuable for everyone here, but it shouldn't be as painful as it is. I hope I don't get fired anytime soon. But and if I do, you know, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be like, right, I've got my own network that I can reach out to. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to go on LinkedIn. Its algorithms are all right. Do you know what I mean? Some of the jobs that get sent to me look vaguely okay. And then even if I do apply for them, some of them go directly to a recruiter. Some of them I get taken off platform onto Taleo. And then I've got to fill in 75 billion forms of my own personal data just to apply for one job. And I've got like a 1 in 10 chance of the person at the end of that process replying to me. Like it's a two-way thing. Like the efficiencies have to benefit recruiters, but we've got to, you know, technology has to help job seekers in, you know, making their life, when you actually come to look for a job, which is such an important thing in someone's life, to be easier and with less friction and just more relevant and enjoyable, if that's possible. I don't know if it is.
How many of you have applied for your own jobs on your phone? Could the rest of you do
That's
that?
not bad.
And if it doesn't work, go into your CEO and hand him your phone and get him to do it. or her to do it, that was really sexist. Okay? Because seriously, that's where I'd apply for a job. If you're sending the job in an email, they're probably reading it.
Yeah, but you could still get taken
the
off your
phone.
mobile onto an ATS and still have to do all the
Right.
other stuff.
You
If it was one click,
shouldn't.
then it would be
All you
easy,
need
but
is-
it won't be
No,
a lot of
it
the
should
time.
be easy, right?
It should be 100%.
So,
What do
so
you
let's ask
need?
the
A
even more
CV
basic
and a phone
question,
number.
Kat. Sorry. The phone, yes. How many of you ever actually applied for jobs at all at your own company to see how it works?
Oh, thank God for that.
Okay, that's much better than normal. Sorry, I didn't want to, but I thought maybe
Yeah,
the phone
I
thing was a
just-
misnomer. That's not bad.
We might all use the desktop, but
Yeah.
candidates don't. They do it on the fly. They're running around, they're reading your email, and they're on the bus and the tube or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Right. We got a question from the audience. And by the way, he said the reason they were going to the counter is because they were buying booze and they couldn't do it from their self-checkout.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah, it's okay.
I outed you on that one.
So I used to work for a business school, and it was actually a case study by Kelly Bahani. He's teaching finance, and that same study was literally because of certain demographics, you have more propensity to buy alcohol and cigarettes, which are behind the counter, which that's why that kind of flipped. That's one of the things that. If I am absolutely overruled by you and I say, I'm going to give you all my money, I'm going to sell my house, which one tech solution, which one startup, which one recruitment provider would you invest my money in and you get to keep all the returns?
Oh, good
Candidate
question.
ID.
Good question.
You owe me.
Sorry.
That would be it.
Well,
So I said candidate ID because it's innovative and different. Was I meant to answer that? I don't know if I was meant to answer that.
Nope, that's fine. Yep, that's good.
That's the one I've seen. I have, and also I love Workshape as well. Sorry, I did too because I'm
Yeah.
naughty. But it's the most innovative one I've seen that takes the marketing but makes it sensible. I would have to go upstairs and see a demo when I can't do a great explanation. But it takes my piece, the hooking them on the bit, and your piece and hooking them on the bit, and keeps them going. So even if they're not ready now and they're ready in 2 years' time, they're being fed stuff all the time because they want to. So that to me is the most
Yeah.
innovative product I've seen.
so other than your own,
Look, I'm not going to like pump hired because we're focused in one particular niche,
What
which is
booth
tech.
was it? Sorry?
But
Booth number.
we are downstairs if anyone wants a demo. That's absolutely fine. But in all seriousness, I do passionately believe that what we're doing as a model, not necessarily as a business ourselves, and the other businesses that are coming into the market and seeing what we're doing is we are removing the manual labor on both sides of the marketplace. We're making candidates' lives easier to apply for a job and actually going, wow, that was so easy. I wanted to find a new job and I found one, and we've made it easier for companies to go, I need to hire a candidate with specific skill sets to find active registered candidates. So I think our model, the matching industry, if you want to call us that, we're kind of like a new niche within recruitment technology. We do tech. There's loads of really good players out there that do legal, that do finance, that do stuff that are all doing really, really well as well. So I'm not just trying to plug ours, but I'm trying to kind of plug our vertical.
That's exactly what you're doing.
but he's done a good job of it.
I'm trying to.
There's no shame in it, right?
No.
That's
And-
exactly
and-
If you're proud of your product,
If he didn't say that, he couldn't go back to work, and you would be looking at job boards. You'd be looking on Reed for your next
I'll
job.
be screwed. I'm not an engineer. I couldn't even go on my own product.
Yeah, you'd be in trouble. Yeah. What about for you? How do you see it from
on
the job
paper,
board side? On paper, yeah.
clearly, I would say I invest it all in in the company that I work for. Marketing directors over there. I might get sacked if I say anything else.
Yeah.
That
But
was
off
Reed.
paper.
Right. Other than yours, yeah.
I think that it's hard to say any one company because for me, it's not like any one company has got a whole platform that I would say I would 100% invest in. I think there are pockets of where people are being really innovative and taking technology forward. And that might be things like smart video interviewing, so HireView, for example, in terms of doing facial recognition and what have you. And then other companies where they're trying to take bias out of writing job descriptions, so text kernel in that area is doing really well there. So I think for me, I would probably take the money and put it in different places.
Okay, nice one. She still got the job? It's okay? Yeah. Right. John, you must have looked
as
at a
the
bunch of
least
technology
biased on
now.
the panel.
And mine wasn't my product.
No.
Sadly, I actually don't think it exists at the moment. I think we need to stop looking at what's the future of work and start thinking about what's the future of employment.
Yeah.
And I think the future of employment will be decentralized. So what that means is you need a decentralized talent marketplace where you're able to integrate to your data sources, HRIS system, ATS, CRM, all your social feeds, so you can see a single talent view. So how they're engaging with your brand, whether they've been for interview before, what's their skills, what's their behavior, what's their competency. This is all happening in the consumer world. We don't. And that is why it doesn't exist right now. Because we focus on sexy little applications, sexy little quick fixes, because we don't embrace the technology.
How does
So
that
sadly, it
translate-
doesn't exist.
How does that translate into the SMB market of a smaller company?
It could be a service, could be, for example, it can be a service, it could be something that you use if you were as a candidate persona going through and finding a job. I'd even say hunted.com is really fun, really cool, really irreverent, and if I had $1 million, I'd potentially use that. So it doesn't have to be one complete solution. Who are you backing for success? Who would you use to find your next job?
So if you're asking me personally, we've built our own CMS. Because it doesn't exist.
So, sorry, if I was looking for my own job, I'd just reverse engineer everything I teach and go find it. However, I'm like one of those rebellious Gen X millennials who has created my own job. I mean, the hilarious thing is you look back 7 or 8 years, it just didn't exist. Well, actually, no, I've been going longer than that, but it just didn't exist. And I think that's what's also really interesting. If you are going to go to your business and look for the future work, do not forget my age group. Because we have the independence to be able to go off and do stuff, and we're going to shock you and we're going to leave with all that knowledge. So don't forget your 40s and your 50s demographic just because you think it's the younger ones who've got the get up and go. You might be surprised. So again,
That's
yours
worth
is
it. It's
the
future
read.
employment. I
Look
think
at
you've got to ask that.
everybody. So SMB, look at everybody in the company. You know.
And I think it does play into SMB. If we move into a decent, there's work to be done everywhere. And what we don't have right now is the ability to people to transact on that work at speed and on their terms. That's really difficult. But we're able to see it in platforms like Uber and Airbnb and places like that. We are not adopting it in the talent space. And I don't understand why.
I still think it comes down to the fact that it's from that board level down. It's recruitment doesn't get the recognition or the investment.
Well, his question was, who would you invest on a product perspective? That suggests the product isn't there, right? We're kind of longing for the technology. So is it the VCs? So it's not board level, is it the VCs? You know, Lever's just, gone for a Series B, 35 million. So the VCs are there. I just don't think we're focused on the right problems.
So let's put it to the audience in a sense. And I've been in the tech space now for 25 years trying to get people to use technology for recruitment. How many of you that are in HR recruitment own your budget that you could go buy technology? Okay, so there's a problem, right? Because how many of you think you should own the budget? The same ones that already own it. Okay, why don't the rest of you think you should own the budget? Anybody want to answer that? Why shouldn't you own the budget to get your own tech and make recruitment your own, much as John's tried to do? Anybody? Anybody want to take that one on? Come on, surely someone must want to answer that question. Uh-oh, we're all scared. You'll take it? Great.
I bet it's fear.
Thanks.
Hi, Katrina. It's Josie again from TFL. I could see, I mean, I think that some people, I suppose if you look at in-house recruitment teams as a whole, you tend to work quite differently. And if you had individual budget holders, you would have a lot of different tools and tend to get siloed and putting a lot of different things towards one common goal. And the next thing you know, you're using a lot of bespoke solutions for something that you could potentially do off the shelf and much more efficiently.
Okay, so we had Microsoft speaking in an earlier session. They've got a global talent acquisition team. They take it out to their regions and out to their silos. They build their, he was talking about his assessment, but it came down to the tools that support that too. And he cascades it down so that those local guys don't end up going off and doing their own thing. But somebody still had to own that budget. So would you try and build your own full talent team and then try and go get your own tools, or you're dependent upon IT to provide for you? Sorry, anybody here from their IT department?
The question's just too big, Alan. It's like
Yeah?
asking why isn't HR on the board?
Okay, why isn't
You know,
HR on the
people
board?
run the company. It's like, why isn't
Yeah.
HR on the board?
Why isn't HR on the board? Mostly because we don't understand and we don't take charge of our business, HR, the same way that sales does, marketing does, engineering does, development does.
My guess is it will be.
Yeah.
Should be already.
It should be already. I've spent the last 10 years living in the transformation that business to business has gone through in terms of sales and marketing, and I can tell you that technology drove that transformation, but it came from the top. It came from the CEO looking at, hey, look, how does sales justify ROI? How does marketing justify ROI? Every dollar that we spend on both to the resources needs to deliver to the organization ROI. And my guess is that the talent crunch will force the same thing into recruitment. So it will be the CEO that drives the tech adoption.
Okay, thanks. So is this future of recruitment that we're talking about, it's going to be dramatically changed by the future of work. Does this technology mean I can stop going to the office? How, can I just do all my work from home, which is what you and I already do? John, with your startup, I mean, you're trying to build a culture, so you need people together.
I mean, we talked about it earlier, it's about choice. I think people have more choice.
Yeah.
I think as we become more decentralized, people will be able to do remote work, at scale. Blockchain's an interesting one, right? So JP Morgan have got their entire workforce on a blockchain prototype, and they're crowdsourcing work. What it enables them to do is the receptionist who may do WordPress in her time or his time can go and engage in the work to be done. It builds the ledger, it builds the statement of work, and it pays them real time into their own currency, into their own bank. I mean, it's improved their work output by 3x. Like, if ever you needed an example, it's a prototype, granted, but if ever you needed an example where the workforce is going to be decentralized, the corporations don't own the talent anyway, and they're certainly not going to in the future. All right, call me an idealist. I don't really care, but that's the point. It's about choice. It's about on your terms. Talent already behaving that way, and I think the technology will adopt it because there's a shitload of work to be done, and if it means we can crowdsource work at scale, at speed, better experience on their terms, I'm all for it.
What about my corporate culture, though, then?
Gone.
Ghost. Yeah.
It's going.
I'm not sure. I mean, I work in a product team, and so I work with a bunch of techies, a bunch of analysts, and product owners. And teamwork is a really big thing. There's discussions day to day that you need to have where you can add value. So I'm not sure I agree that there'll be no co-location and that everyone will work from home. I'm not sure I agree with that. I wouldn't want to work from home all of the time. It'd drive me nuts.
Would VR not help that?
It may do, but I'm not sure that it will fully replace it. And I think that's many years away from where we are at the moment.
Companies are already doing it though, so buffers.
They are, but there are also we do it as well, but there are big limitations with that and problems that you have to then try and tackle.
But I also feel that there's the technology out there, so ProFind is a brilliant platform for finding people within your company who have the skills to create teams, for example. And then things like Zoom. I mean, you can feel like you're sitting chatting with somebody and it's just a video application right there. And I use it to deliver training all the time. It's really easy.
If they work in the same country.
No, I deliver around the globe on it.
Yeah, but then you've got the time. So do you see what I mean?
Yes,
There are a number of things
I
that you're
understand
still, faced
Yeah, I'm still catering for that, but I just think that the technology in that respect is there.
So I just wanted to pick up on the point as well of working from home and people not wanting to necessarily work from home. So I work in the legal sector and I work for a law firm that represents high net worth individuals as a majority of our client base as well. So actually having that face-to-face element that yes, we do have the ability to go online, talk from home, work from home, flexible working, everything like that. But removing that personal element is something that our clients would never want. If you're dealing with a multi-million pound divorce, if you're looking at relocation of children internationally, if you're splitting up a corporate entity or your philanthropic interests over 4 continents, we have clients that still fly from Singapore to the London office for a 1-hour meeting. We'll have clients that fly from New York again to the British Virgin Islands for 1-hour meetings because they want that person there, that face-to-face contact, that empathy, the trust element, and obviously technology maybe not the most secure at times as well. If you're talking about, multi-million-pound deals for corporations in jurisdictions of the world as well, where you don't want to be logging onto the internet doing that, or going on the phone and doing that, because you don't know who's listening, you don't know.
There's also plenty of corrupt lawyers out there, right?
I think it's about balance.
There's a lot of training in money laundering and corruption.
Look at the
but
effect of Watson on the legal sector, though.
But there's balance there as well, and there's some things when looking at AI and how people are going to be replaced as well. The legal sector, again, there are certain things in terms of document preparation and bundles, that can be replaced, but the actual day-to-day of working with a lawyer and actually someone fighting a case in court and having empathy and seeing both sides of an argument.
I agree, that's the same thing about the recruitment process though, isn't it? It's like you're finding parts of the process that probably don't need to be done by a human because it's like a boring job, it's quite repetitive. A machine could do that, but the actual really valuable stuff that is people are invested in has to be done human to human. So in the same way that in that legal proceeding, you're absolutely right. You can automate some of it.
Yeah.
The same applies to recruitment, and I think that's what we're saying is that it's that balance of how far do you push it. But I think what we're probably realizing is we haven't pushed it far enough yet, and you need to kind of start exploring how far you can push it, and then find what that balance looks like between human and machine.
And your company as well.
So has anybody looked at IBM Watson?
Yeah, that's cool.
Have you been looking at it? Yep. You've been looking at it. We talked about the technology you want to invest in. I'd invest in IBM Watson.
Yeah.
Because the amount of intelligence that they've put into analyzing data, being able to search, being able to pull things together, being able to pull it all together. And I saw a guy 2 years ago present what it could look like for recruitment, and quite honestly, it scared the crap out of me, because that could really be the future of recruitment.
But their bit of being able to work out who was going to leave the company and who wasn't.
Yeah.
And they'd be looking at Alan going, oh, he's really, really happy, he's not going anywhere. And the manager's going, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And Watson's saying, no, he is. And you'd
He's
go
going.
and resign. And they'd be like,
It'll start analyzing stuff like, when did you last update your LinkedIn profile? Okay, who here updated their LinkedIn profile other than when they started to look for a new job? Wow, quite a few did, right. LinkedIn thinks that you only update your profile when you're looking for a job, right? Or you just got the new one. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things we've been asked to ask the panel, and we could ask the audience as well, you're supposed to finish the sentence. The future of recruitment is. Very narrow field, very narrow thing. I'll let the panel, anybody here want to give it a try? The future of recruitment is, okay.
human.
Oh.
Hashtag be human.
I think the future of recruitment is collectively companies coming together and sharing some of the information about some of their candidates and about some of the people who have been in their processes and maybe haven't been successful, people who are rejected in those processes, and really connecting with one another, because people who go to a company, apply for a company and go to the top and they don't get it, they're going to go to another company anyway, whether you like it or not. So it's actually using that information and using it as a mutually beneficial type of way. And I think that's something which could work well and going forward in the future of recruitment with the human side and the tech side mixing together.
That sounds awfully like a decentralized talent marketplace to me.
So would you say that's the future of recruitment?
I think there's two layers. Sorry to be complex, but it's kind of the way the future of recruitment. I'm going to go with this man down here. It's at the boardroom. The second one is a decentralized talent marketplace, by far.
So is that what Reed already presents, is a decentralized recruitment marketplace?
I'm not sure it represents that at the moment. But I think for me, the future of recruitment has got lots of opportunities. And I think the introduction of technology will have a very significant impact excuse me, on our human capital of how we experience things. And ultimately, as I said previously, I don't think that the role of needing to get a great candidate into a particular role is going to change. I think the way we go about doing it will. And I do think that it will be humans and machines and us working in harmony to understand where one can bring benefits higher than the other one. And it's about ensuring that we make that as effective as possible.
Okay.
I agree. I just think it's that combination. It's going to become easier. and more efficient. I just think for both candidates and for people hiring, I think that is the future. It has to catch up with the rest, other industries and other things that are out there, and just become more straightforward and fluid for people to look for a job and for companies to hire good people.
And I think, concurring with them all, technology has given humans an ability to work differently. So it used to be permanent contract. Well, it's not that anymore, is it? So it's making sure that you're, looking at your business, what your business needs, and putting the human in and using the tech to support that. So pretty well what they said.
So we all know it's a challenge having this crystal ball. So if I think 10 years ago I answered that question at a conference called The Future of Recruitment, and I made a joke slide, and I put up a person in a Corvette. I put a heads-up display on it and said, just imagine this person could be bailing across America, well, at 55 miles an hour, because that's what you could drive across America. And his phone going to ring, doesn't have to answer it, and it'll say, I've got a job for you in Phoenix. The car would automatically turn around, reprogram the GPS, and take him right there. And I made that up as a joke 10 years ago, right? You could do that now. You could do the whole thing. So maybe one of our challenges in the future of recruitment is we can't really project the future, but what are the candidates going to think? So how many of you here have looked for a job in the last 12, 18 months? Okay, so I want you to put your candidate hat on. As a candidate, what do you want to see from the future of recruitment? Anybody want to answer that? Yep, okay. Thanks, Brian.
So for me, I think in, let's say 10, 20 years' time, all the disruptive technology that we're talking about will be commoditized, and it'll be at a point where we can all afford it as well. So actually, it's no longer a competitive advantage. So if we're intelligent about this, we've got to go one step ahead of it. And it's about businesses understanding who the hell they are and what they've got to offer. For me, it's about strategic, intelligent employer brand. And I go into organizations all the time, and most businesses don't have an employer brand. And I think until you understand who you are and what your higher purpose is as an organization, and what your values are and what your real proposition is, you can have all the technology in the world, but it's not the tools, it's how you use the tools. You can't commoditize people. Therefore, skip to the end, we are the only competitive advantage left in business. So let's invest in understanding the identity of an organization, and then invest in understanding the value you offer to a candidate, and then invest in putting those two things together efficiently. It's not a process, it's an experience.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody want to take a stab at the candidate perspective back there? Oh, great. I need my exercise.
Hand in hand. Yeah.
Thanks.
I think from a candidate perspective, what I would want is develop me. And it goes back to the Fight for Feedback campaign that gone recently with the BBC. One thing that FDM Group was an early adapter of is, if you're going to reject me, that's fine, but tell me how can I improve? Because then it's just wasting all the other employers in this room's time if we keep making the same mistake. So let's fight for feedback and get the right feedback so candidates can go out and get the jobs they want.
Here.
Yeah.
So I'll answer that as a candidate. Please come back to me and give me some response. 14%, that's brilliant. It used to be 5%, but it's pathetic. The one simple thing, we talked about automation earlier, the one simplest thing to automate is response. There is no excuse for not responding to a candidate. You can generate an auto email. They know it's an auto email, but say in the auto email, this is an auto email, but at least we got it. So you know that I'm alive.
And put your name.
And put your name on it.
Appreciate their time.
Please.
Contact details.
I'll do. Yep. First.
It's not about the candidate's perspective, but all the conversations so far have been about the interaction with the candidates. Whereas I've found it's not necessarily the interaction with the candidates the problem, it's the internal processes within the company that slow things up, that cause all the problems and cause most hires not to happen. And they go on hold, they come off hold. The candidate gets very lost in this process. So I want to know, is there any technology that's out there that you're aware of or that you're dealing with that can really sort of automate the process, so the link between finance and HR and the business and reward are all, together. And,
you mean once
tight.
they're hired, as opposed to losing them in the process?
It's all part of the candidate experience, but the main interaction talks about. The main interaction is going to be through this email that John talked about earlier. But the main interaction with the company is going to be their hiring experience with the company.
I mean, I think the issue there is you've got the candidate, that's their full-time job, getting a job.
No, but I'm talking specifically about the internal processes of the company.
Yeah, no, I'm getting there. So you've got the candidate, their full-time job is getting a job. The recruiter, their full-time job is hiring people, and then you've got the hiring manager and HR and blah, blah, blah. It's like this much of their job. So it's getting their buy-in, and that's the real challenge. Being able to say to them, you try not to swear, stuffing this around, that was hard, are causing this knock-on effect. But sometimes you just can't get their attention because they've got, your job's the product, for example, so that's your main job. The hiring's
But this has always been the case since day one. There's always been a problem trying to get other people interactive. But I'm saying, what technology? How could we use technology to get them more invested in the hiring process?
It wouldn't matter if the technology was there. It wouldn't matter if I kept delivering that CV into their inbox every single day. If it's not their focus, if they don't get the importance of paying attention to it, they're just not going to. It comes down to the recruiter doing a really amazing job of getting them to understand the priority.
But it's kind of like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like you're talking about different aspects of the process, which are kind of like the sourcing, the actual onboarding, the interviewing, and everything.
It's getting people in place to sort out the interviews. It's all those internal processes. Because I've never had a problem attracting candidates to that first initial conversation. The problem where it always falls down is it can take, if the hiring process and the interview process is taking 4 months at times, because you have to sort out people internally, you have to get things in place, and trying to keep the candidates, invested and interested and keep their energy levels up.
The problem you have is other people.
Yeah.
Bureaucracy.
Recruiting isn't their full-time job. So they're not as invested into it, right?
So there are
But I was saying, it's interesting, we talk about technology about, in reaching out to the candidates, but no one's talking about technology about how we can improve this part of the process.
Yeah.
Because it's a people bit, it's not a technology bit.
Yeah.
Well, there are existing systems at the moment that attempt to try and join up the segregated part of the internal parts of our business, but they don't work because they don't understand the complexities of the human dynamics that are involved, and sticking a system on something will not make it work.
What you're talking about is it's all connected, right? So you've got the finance person controlling the budget, you've got somebody making the strategic decision, you've got intertwined circles and politics going on and bureaucracy going on in those things. It's because the humans are irrational in making those decisions, plain and simple. So it's all connected. So once you've got the rational decision making happening, which currently the only thing that can do that is machine learning and AI, right? So to take the irrational elements and bias out of the human decision making, you're never going to solve that problem because that is politics. That's what it is. So you can't solve that problem until you get rid of the human element. That's the only way I think you can solve it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. The technology is there to do this. I just haven't seen it deployed in recruitment effectively yet, but I've seen it in sales and marketing, right? So how it works over there is that there's a service level agreement between marketing and sales that sales have to follow up on marketing generated leads, okay? And so they all agree this as two combined teams, like the recruitment team and the hiring manager team, okay? And the tech polices it. So if the hiring manager doesn't, respond to a request for an interview within 24 hours, then he gets an email sent to him to remind him. And if he doesn't respond within 48 hours, then he gets an email and his boss gets an email. If he doesn't respond within 36 hours, it goes all the way up the chain. So they just use the tech to police it, to change behavior, and it works. The tech's there. It's just about...
Sales people get a reward that's like really obvious, right? Sale, commission, boom.
And it's those things, that's the fact that the CEO cares about the revenue coming through the door, but
Yeah.
probably isn't thinking about what's our hiring process look like.
Which is dumb, of course. However, it is what it is.
And the short answer is
that the person coming through the door could be generating the revenue, etc. But they don't think that way. So that's why, much as I hear what you're saying, I wish. However, again, you as a recruiter need to have built trust with the hiring manager, or he's just going to, whatever.
Right. I could put in Resmix 20 years ago that exact workflow. And we had all of those links, we had all those emails that were all built in, all the warnings all the way up through. But to your point, if we don't get the people, if they don't pay attention to it, and if the CEO then doesn't look at his inbox, it has 60, disgruntled messages, then we fall back over. So it still does come back down to the personal piece. We move on to another topic. You had something else, Fiona?
you.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to make more of a summative statement to what's the future of recruitment. If you'd asked me that 30 years ago, my answer would be the same as it is today. Whether you're, embracing AI or new technology through new processes and more efficient processes, or that all-important human contact piece, which is what we as recruiters need to be good at. It's about the quality of the relationship with the person you're building the relationship with, whether it's the company internally or the candidate. The future of recruitment is how good is the quality of that relationship that you're building. What the process you're using to build it, use everything, I'm agreeing with you, I think use everything that's available, but also don't forget it's about quality, not just process.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fiona Lander, and it's good to see that us boomers still have something to contribute to the recruiting process. Thanks, everybody. Look, I know we could keep going, and it would be great to be able to do that, but we do have to break now. I'd just like to thank the panel of Kat, Gordon, Vicky, and John. Thank you all for putting yourselves out and opening yourself up to having to go get a new job. Because of what you said about your current company. But really, it's been great. You guys are the future of recruitment. Remember that. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.